got it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very
So
good.
are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, and very thank you for the initial
Oh, well,
talk.
yeah, thank you so much for your time.
All
Sangyun
right.
Lee, Dr. Lee, I should say.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is explaining us, giving us a lecture or a seminar or talk about the Korean's KFTC's big decision or
Ah,
policy announcement that they are not no longer pursue the legislation like DMA, like ex ante legislation any longer. So it was from KFTC. I remember it's, or was it when? It was like early this month, right?
yeah. September. I mean, yeah, very early this month, and then
Mm.
as far as I remember, it's sorry, the announcement was released. Yeah, September 10th. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So it came as a surprise, particularly to Japanese people, I guess, because the Japan just enacted that
Ah,
smartphone act, like
yeah.
DMA, like Acton.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems that the whole world is moving towards this ex ante type or DMA like to
Mhm.
some extent, but the Korea decided to go
Yeah,
and they
against
follow
it.
the suit. So could you explain a little bit,
Yeah.
like summarize the announcements made by the KFTC?
Yeah. And as you just correctly mentioned, I was so a bit surprised and also surprised about the consequences. And as far as I know, um, India recently decided to, not decided, but it is reportedly reconsidering its initiative to introduce the DMA-like regulation. And also, to the best of my knowledge, Philippines, they
Mm,
also um, took wait and see approach. And then I, I, I don't know very well about the Philippines situation, but as far as I understand, that they already have a law, a specific law, but they decided not to put much focus on this law, but instead they decided to make the competition enforcement more robust. So, and in both cases, they mentioned the South Korea's decision. I was really surprised and realized that it's a really big issue. And then I think it may be really good for um, other people. I mean, outside of Korea, to to get informed about what happened in Korea, uh, especially regarding the platform regulation. And to put it simply, well, before this announcement, it was 2023, and then the KFTC, it was September or December, KFTC announced that it will proceed the legislative process, and it uh, it proposed regulation and modeled after DMA or Section 19A of the German Competition Act. That's those two were written in the press release explicitly. So although the full text has never been disclosed, but through the reports, we can um, uh, understand that the KFTC intends to introduce a bill um, which is characterized by the ex ante designation system and also the ex ante prohibitions, self-executing prohibitions like Article 5 of the DMA, maybe 6 a little bit different, but anyways. So it came, although it was not a first attempt, it was not the first attempt, but anyways, this initiative, uh, updated initiative came as a really big surprise for many. And then so the KFTC faced lots of criticism and backlash. And then finally, as we just discussed, on 10th September, the KFTC announced that it abandons its plan to introduce a new and a special regulation. Instead, it announced that it will amend the MRFDA, the Korea's competition law, to introduce first legal presumptions of dominance, platform dominance, and the second, also the kind of presumptions on certain anti-competitive practices like self-preferencing or imposing MFN clauses or the price parity clauses, and also tying restrictions on market harming. When it comes to the presumption on dominance, the details may be changed in the legislative process, but for now, we can guess that the KEFTC may pursue the threshold, which seems to be really quantitative. For example, according to the press release, the KFTC says that if this bill is passed, a dominant platform may be presumed to hold a dominant position in the relevant market when it holds solely 60% market share and 10 million users. Or 2 or 3 platform companies holds more than 85% market shares, with each having more than 20 million users. So maybe the figures may not be really important. So, but to put it simply, you can just assume that maybe local the platform companies like Kakao, Naver, or global companies like Google and Apple, and possibly Microsoft or Meta will be included. So it's rather really narrow. But anyways, that's what the KFTC announced in the latest press release. And also, additionally, it announced that it intends to introduce interim measure system and also the increase of fines up to 8%, not 80%, of course, 8%. Yeah.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting that the Korea has already followers like Philippines and start impacting on the people's competition law communities mindset, I guess. So thank you very much. It's
Yeah.
very good summary. And it's also interesting that under this presumption, by this presumption, the KFTC wants to have both local companies and global players are covered. Will be covered. That's interesting. Thank you so much. So yeah, so the KFTC announcements have two sections, two parts.
Yeah.
So abandoning the DMA like designation system, designated companies, designated practices, like ex-ante registration, and amending the MRFTA. So let me ask about this in turn, if that's okay with you. Yeah, first about the DMA like registration, like giving up that idea.
Okay.
focus on that
Yeah,
first?
I'm sorry, but before we talk about
Yeah,
this issue, it's a really good question, but I think I should make it, I should more clarify that actually in this announcement, the KFCC released 2 plans. The first one is, as we just discussed, about platform regulation, and the second is about Larger Retailers Act, but I'm not going to discuss about the second part and today because it is more related to delayed payment issue. It's a very region-specific issue, but to put it simply, through this amendment, the KFTC announced that it plans to the Large Retailer Act expand its scope to comprise the e-commerce platforms as well. So it will treat e-commerce platforms like traditional retailers, but today the focus is not this. So we will focus on this, the first issue. And as you correctly mentioned, there are 2 important reads. And the first one is a DMA like a legislation abandonment, and the second is about amending the MRFTA, right?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
please, if you don't mind. Although I am interested in this another legislative plan to amend the Large Retailer Act to make
Yeah, yeah.
e-commerce platforms being. So I would like to know the implication, what it means, in fact, in detail, but probably at another time. If
Yeah,
that's
another time. But
yeah.
for now, I think I can very briefly introduce. Um, well, compared it to the first proposal, the second proposal is not very detailed yet. I mean, if you look at the press release, there are the KFTC is not presenting some options, if I remember correctly, and then. But the main issue is that how to deal with the delayed payment issue. I mean, recently there was a really big event in Korea, accident, that some platform companies didn't pay back to its customers on time, because it happens really uh, occasionally. I heard that in especially in e-commerce the transactions. So the KFTC may have decided that we have to deal with this issue by amending the Larger Retailers Act, and through this we can treat the e-commerce platforms like traditional retailers. But yeah, of course, as you just mentioned, that maybe next time I can bring more details, and then glad to share the details with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's already interesting because you mentioned late payment. Japan
Later.
has subcontract act to deal with late payment issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, so certainly later some another video. But
Great. Yeah.
let us
Of course, why
focus
not?
because
Yeah.
we have to be
Yeah.
we cannot
Yeah.
create a 2 hours video for now. Don't worry.
Okay, no worries.
So
Yeah.
so first about
Yeah.
this abandoning
Yeah.
the MA, DMA-like approaches.
Yeah.
So what drove the KFTC to drop the plan?
Yeah, briefly say, I think we already have discussed this issue. I mean, the KFTC in 2023 September presented its own bill, and then it was a very sudden. I mean, for many, it was not expected. And actually, before this announcement, just 1 month before this announcement, the president of Korea, the current president, publicly commented that a messenger-based platform is really bad, and then this company is monopolizing the market and then harming the customer's interest. Here in this context, customer was taxi drivers. But anyways, we can discuss this in more detail later. But anyways, so following the president's statement, the KEFTC needed to do something. I mean, to cope with the issue that the president explicitly mentioned that it's wrong. So maybe the KFTC was referring to what is happening outside Korea, and then maybe the DMA inspired them very much, and then they presented their bill, and then modeled after the DMA, and then there was no very robust social consensus about platform regulation, and even startups. The startup group was really upset about the legislative proposal. So after receiving many feedbacks against the regulatory proposal, the KFTC may have decided, okay, it's not a good idea for now. I mean, because many argued that, well, perhaps in the future, but for now, I mean, Korea's market is totally different from the European Union's one. So we need a different approach for now. and then we don't need to be very rushed, and so we can wait and we can take a wait and see approach when it comes to the DMA. And then, yeah, for now, we don't need any platform specific regulation. So the KFTC may have decided not to pursue the DMA-like bill.
Right. Wow. Very interesting. So from the beginning,
Yeah,
so you just as you said, the bill
yeah.
came as a surprise. Um, and it was like out of blue almost.
Yeah.
The bill.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was very interesting. I mean, I heard that. I mean, in the press release, it is written that the KFTC has already installed a task force to analyze how to deal with platform-related issues within the framework of competition law. And then it was established in the beginning of 2023, if I remember correctly. And they held the meetings nine times. I mean, the task force was composed of internal and external experts. But as you can read from the press release, it implicitly says that the conclusion of the task force was not to introduce a new regulation, but a different one. But anyways, the KFTC decided to push for new regulation following the president's the statement. That's my perception. So perhaps, yeah, it was really
Oh,
well.
okay. 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 And I guess this KFTC's president has great influence over the powerful
Well,
person.
yeah, yeah, for this matter, I mean, it depends. I mean, this perhaps some may have a different opinion, but my perception is that, I mean, given that in Korea, president has a really strong power, so it may have wielded a very strong influence over the platform regulation initiative. But as I already wrote in a blog post elsewhere, um, actually, there was the first initiative in 2020. I mean, back then, there was a discussion about the NCT in Europe, and following the adopting of the P2B regulation. And also, as you know, in Japan followed the European Union's approach to a certain extent. I mean, with a very limited scope. But anyways, Japan back then introduced the P2B regulation as well. So the KFTC also tried to introduce the P2B like regulation in Korea. But back then, it was also really sudden. I mean, there was no preparatory work, and then just KFTC announced that we're going to pursue legislation. It was, if I understand correctly, it's June of 2020, 2021, 2020, and then they presented the bill only 3 months later of that announcement. So no one knew that what happened inside the KFTC. Even back then, actually, there was another team making the platform guidelines to clarify um, the assessment method when the KFTC applied the Article 5, I mean, abuse of dominance provision to platform cases. But even those members didn't know about the legislation. So then even those people didn't know about that. Then what about the others? I mean, it was a really big surprise to the industry and many other people as well, and scholars, and so they were really upset. And then we don't wait a second, it's too strong, and it's too, I mean, too early. And then so it also faced a really serious backlash. So maybe it gave a traumatic experience to people this time as well. So again, another DMA style bill. Oh my gosh, please ask us in advance, and then they pushed it back against the KFTC's initiative. So I think this can be a description of the whole story of the journey, a roller coaster journey of the KFTC towards the non-regulation.
Yes, thank you very much. So yeah, it was roller coaster like journey. That's what you mentioned. You just said, and it was actually blog post that the title of the blog post. I'm trying to make sure that everyone seeing this video as a website and the link to that post. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. So okay, so it's no, so the bill or this plan was not based on the solid ground like preparation, preparatory research, studies, public commenting. It's not on that basis. So it's a bit like shaky ground.
Well, of course, there were some consultation process after the bill was released. I mean, when it comes to the first initiative, I mean, when they after they released the first draft bill, and then they opened a public consultation process. But the thing is that, I mean, the text, I mean, it's my perception, but the text they should have based on the consultation process outcome, not the way around. You know, so you can also revise by reflecting the feedbacks, but it's too risky. I mean, people get really surprised, then they may be reacting to the bill unnecessarily in a really radical way. So there was a first mistake, I think, that the KFTC made in this situation with this matter. And of course, when it comes to the second initiative, second updated initiative, as we just discussed, KFTC held is installed and operated internal task force, and it was really good. And then they received many feedbacks from the field, and then it deliberately it considered very deeply about the platform market of Korea. And so it was good. But the thing is that the present, it's my perception, my very opinion, that my humble opinion. So I might be wrong, but if you look at the timeline, I mean, so right after the president made a statement, and then 1 month later, the KFTC released the press release. I mean, at this time, the full text of the law, the bill, was not disclosed. But anyways, yeah. So there were some consultation process, but what I want to say is that, I mean, the order was wrong. I mean,
I see. I see. I see. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so it was not only the global big tech or the Korean local big techs who criticize this initiative. So for like whole industry and academia, they are also against this proposal too.
Yeah. And as you just correctly mentioned, some arguments were based on the nationalistic perspective. You know, we have a really lot of great local platforms, and they are now trying to be more active outside Korea. So we have to push them, and we have to support them, not regulate them. There was a kind of an argument. I don't buy this kind of argument, but anyway, there was there. Such an argument was there, and then also when and then put this argument aside, scholars also argue that, I mean, first look at the market condition first, and then forget about the nationality of firms. I mean, when it comes to the search market and the search services, in Europe, for example, perhaps everyone uses Google, right? Well, for the moment, the situation may be a little bit different because with the arrival of the ChatGPT. But anyways, yeah, when the Google Shopping case happened in Europe, I mean, of course, maybe more than 95% market share was held by Google. I'm certain that. But in Korea, if you just search the Korean market situation in terms of a search engine, then you can easily realize that the 50% may be held by Naver, and the 40 is something, 40 is 3 or 4, I don't know the specific details, but is held by Google, which means that those two companies are competing each other. Of course, how it depends how you define the relevant market. But anyways, this figure and my experience shows that Google is not a very super dominant company in Korea and in other uh, markets as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so yeah, there was a really strong argument that the market situation is different. So we have to consider more deeply about the necessity of the regulation, not just the copy and paste, not just taking a copy and paste approach.
I see, I see, I see. Yes, that matches my experience as well. So people in Korea do not use Google, for example, Google Map.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no. I mean,
Like, of course, no.
yeah. I mean, my answer would be yes and no. I mean, some people still use Google Maps, but the majority of people don't use Google Map because but when it comes to the Google Map, um, there's a regulation that may be that may make a different situation. But yeah, when it comes to the search engine, yeah, I think yeah. So
Yeah,
this would be really interesting
I see.
point
Yeah,
for
it is,
others.
yeah, it is indeed interesting. Yeah, okay, that's well, wonderful. May I ask you,
Mhm.
uh, uh, consumer associations in Korea are so powerful, active.
Yeah,
How, or
aggressive.
yeah, how, what were their um
Uh,
responses?
well, as
You know?
yeah, as you know, um, there are so many types of consumer groups, right? I mean, in reality, you don't know uh, who is supported by a big company or who is supported by real citizens. But anyways, I don't know the details or backgrounds, but if you just look at the media reports, then you can realize that there is a divided views on the bill. I mean, some consumer groups um, argued against the bill, but as you know, I mean, the majority of consumer groups, um, they are more fond of introducing regulation. Yeah, but the thing is that um, the biggest consumer group supports the bill. The fact doesn't justify or um, doesn't justify the necessity of the regulation or um, the fact uh, does not mean that um, consumer would benefit from the regulation. I mean, for example, I myself and my wife and then so many of my friends, they really don't like it, this kind of government initiative because they really enjoy restrictions. And then, for example, when it comes to Messenger, I use 4 or 5 messengers at the same time. And I use iPhone, but many of my friends still use Galaxies, I mean, Android-based phones. So yeah, so that's what I want to say. I mean, it's really divided. So what I can say is that not everyone agrees with the platform regulation initiative.
Yeah, true. And also, another fact that so you do multi-home. Is that because you're a
Yeah, of course,
computational
yes.
people or it's majority of the Korean? It's
Uh, No, it's just if you look at the monthly active users, the figure, I recently read an article that the Kakao Talk, which is usually regarded as a dominant messenger company in Korea, its market share is decreasing because a young generation don't want to use Kakao Talk. Instead, they more prefer, for example, Instagram direct messages or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. And then in my case, I more prefer LinkedIn or WhatsApp Messenger. And well, yeah, when I need to call my mom and father, and I need to use Kakao Talk, but because my parents only use Kakao Talk, but well, in general situations, I don't use Kakao Talk that
Oh,
much.
okay. I see, I see. Wow, the market is indeed different from the else, the rest of the world, and
To my
that's
understanding,
my
yes.
impression. Thank you very much. So it's already, I think, explained that to what extent this decision or the KFTC has having to drop this proposal, a
Mhm,
plan.
mhm,
I want to know the real impact of that decision. But if the market is competitive enough, probably not that serious.
mhm,
So, um, could you explain the real impact of this decision? So, in this context, I would appreciate it if you could explain the KFTC's current enforcement record in relation to the digital
mhm,
platforms in terms of the like um, how easy
mhm,
they tackle with this these are big tech or new theory of harm,
mhm,
various theory of harms,
mhm,
and in terms of speed, and also the like sanction or deterrence effect.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, a very good point. Thank you. And but I forgot to mention that I'm not a representative of Korea, so there may be different views, and then there may be more authoritative scholars. So you can rely on their opinions as well. But if you ask me about my opinion and my perception, then I would say that the impact may depend on particularly whether the court accepts the KFTC approach. Of course, the first hurdle that the KFTC will face is the parliament, parliament or Congress. I don't know how to express in English, but anyways, you may understand it. The National Assembly, of course, um, because currently the opposition party now takes the majority. So it may be really difficult for the KFTC or current government to pass the amendment plan because the opposition party is now uh, very against this proposal. But anyways, if it passes, so when it comes to your question about impact of the amendment, then as I mentioned in the beginning of this talk, um, the key features of this proposal are the first two presumptions, right? I mean, the first presumption of dominant.
Sorry. Before moving towards that's the amendment part,
Yeah.
I should have so two issues.
Mhm, mhm.
One is DMA, like the designation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So ex ante regulation.
yeah, yeah,
Then like in Japan, it's like more like Smartphone Act.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So the Smartphone Act in Japan is regarded, well, at least to me, it
Mhm.
was necessary because otherwise the FTC cannot work. The FTC, well,
Ah,
relative to the probably American laws or American U.S. Federal law and the EU competition law,
mhm,
the Japanese competition law should be easier in theory
mhm,
because the threshold is lower than
mhm,
it's not the
mhm,
dominant position, it's not monopoly power, it's
mhm,
either market power or lessening
mhm,
competition.
mhm,
But still, establishing those effects is very hard for the GFTC on
mhm,
case-by-case analysis. And also, because Japanese regulation is based on the like US-style monopolization
mhm,
rather than abuse
mhm,
concept. So there's no, yeah. So for those reasons, the GFTC to me, that's the I may have been criticizing or using a strong word against the JFTC, like not being active enough. But also at the same time, I understand why the JFTC has to struggle. So then I'm happy with the Smartphone Act. In fact, I supported it like fully. So without which I believe that the JFTC cannot anyone, any regulatory body cannot maintain the competition or restore the competition in the market in Japan. So that's the Japanese situation. Then so then my feeling is that Korea is different in many ways. The market situation is different, as you explained, but then now the KFTC dropped this initiative to have DMA-like registration. Yeah. So I wanted to know that how well they not supported by the people, even by the competition law scholars, but KFTC wanted it. So could be only president, but
I don't know.
but
Okay.
but my assumption is that the natural assumption is that the KFTC needed it or wanted it for some reason to make it more activities more effective. So that I wanted to know. So
Okay, I got your point. Yeah.
then so in place of this so this announcement comes with this next one different approach or initiative that's amends the law to make it. But I understand that it may happen and it may not happen, right?
Yeah.
So I will ask you about this later. But
Okay.
for now, can we just focus on this like DMA, like
Okay.
ex-ante type,
Yeah.
and
I got it.
how serious it can
Yeah.
be for the KLTC?
Okay. If I understand correctly about your question, and then I think I should tell you this. In the press release, which was released in 2023, the KFTC emphasized that more speedy enforcement process is needed. For example, it mentioned the cacao tea case, and to put it very briefly, it was the case of about a dominant ride-hailing platforms practices that favored its own services, its own affiliated taxi drivers, but you know what I mean. I mean they manipulated algorithms allegedly, and then favored its own services. Actually, here in this context, service means taxi drivers, and discriminated other taxi drivers. So the KFTC sanctioned this company. Here again, the Kakao, because Kakao is a messenger-based platform, but it also runs a service of ride-hailing. But and yeah, the thing is that what the KFTC said in the press release that it sanctioned, but it was too late. So market has already changed. It was already dominated by the platform. It looked really reasonable and persuasive. But the thing is that there many people argue that there may be other less restrictive alternatives like interim measures, which is now included in the latest announcement. And also, if I remember correctly, okay, there is a news report which was reported in 2022, and then normally for the KEFTC, especially in abuse of dominance cases, it takes 715 days to finalize the case. So from the report until the infringement decision, it takes perhaps approximately 2 years, right? And then it's getting increased. But I don't find that it justifies the adoption of a regulation. I mean, 2 years of a proceeding. You know, I believe that the KFTC may have inspired by an argument which was made when the DMA or other platform regulations was made. And I remember that in a document written by the European Commission, it mentioned about Intel case and Google shopping case as well. It took really long time, but in Korea, I don't think it for the KFTC it took really long time, like the European Commission took, and also even there may be more cases that handle in a more short time frame. For example, Google, maybe Naver, they are different, but smaller firms, for the smaller firms, I think KFTC usually use different tools like abuse of a superior bargaining position or unfair trading practices, which give the agency more discretion to finish the case at an earlier stage with a mild remedy or mild fines. But anyways, I understand that Japan's situation is a little bit different from Korea, but I need more research about this one. But there is there is a force, there is a power there is an institutional setting to push the KFTC officers to make decisions and as many as they can. But I don't know what makes such a differences because although we have the same rules, but anyways, it was a really interesting part. But what I want to share today is that KFTC has never been suffering from under enforcement. Of course, economic analysis is required and the effect analysis is required. It's very complicated, but if I understand correctly, at least one case a year, abuse of dominance case a year, has been published by the KFTC. So I don't think the KFTC did another tools, and then its argument can justify its initiative, the regulatory initiative. If this
Wow.
is the answer to
Wow.
your question.
Yes, of course. Like never suffered under enforcement.
I think over enforcement, yes, but then not when it comes to the under enforcement, it's unlikely, highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. When it comes to digital platforms, that this whole world is thinking that there's not necessarily the whole world is an exaggeration. Some may think that it's already the over regulation under the DMA, but like so quickly enough. So KFTC is quick enough and has lots of tools to address like data related abuse and self-preferencing and those.
One may have a different view. I mean, but as I mentioned earlier, what I can share is the 715 days on average in 2021. It's getting increased, but anyways, not more than 3 years. So I don't think it can justify any types of regulation.
Oh, right. And as you mentioned, there should be even better way to address if the KFTC needs to speed up. There's
interim
another
measures
way
maybe.
than introducing regulation. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What about this not typical some practice we never thought like I don't know, like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, up until the EU Google shopping case and anti-fork and stuff on some or German Facebook case, some practice that we didn't think that it's caused a competition issue at all. That's the area I think the Japanese scholars have to think about that current tool is good enough. because for example, like self-preferencing is a kind of discrimination, and Japanese scholars are discussing that. Say, is this kind of the discrimination that the Japanese competition law can address, deal with easily?
Yeah.
So that's a hurdle
Yeah.
in Japan. So I wonder about that too. Korean situation is different.
When it comes to the noble practices, right, and then
Yeah,
the new
exactly. No,
practices.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Well, of course, I think I don't find the KFTC is suffering from that issue. You know, what just brought up into my mind is Qualcomm case. It happened 1 or 2 years ago. I mean, the Supreme Court decision was presented 1 year ago, 2023. As far as I remember, I might be wrong, but in this case, the KFTC um, tackled the Qualcomm's licensing practices, which is called only on devices, not for chipsets. But I won't discuss the details of this case. But anyways, it was really novel and it was a really complicated case. But using the tool of the prohibition of abuse of dominance and the unfair trading practices, the KFTC successfully sanctioned the Qualcomm's practices, and then it was upheld by the court. And so if you look at this case, I don't think that the KFTC is suffering from a really serious problem. Of course, there are some loopholes, and um, there will be some more issues in the future. But yeah, basically, I don't know. I mean, unfair trading practices also it's a kind of a complementary tool, as you know. So, and then if the KFTC used both tools, abuse of dominance and unfair trading practices, then it can handle, I think, many practices. But well, maybe exploitative abuse, like data exploitation, is a little bit different story. But what I want to say is that nowadays, I mean, not traditionally, but nowadays, the Data Protection Authority of Korea is also really active. So I don't know. Koreans are really workaholics. I don't know what makes them really work really hard, but I don't know. Sometimes they look really workaholics. But anyways, that's what is happening in Korea.
Wow, okay. That's in a way good. Oh, wow. So the- you know that Japanese people look at the Germany. Well, I guess it's global phenomena. Like Germany and France, the powerhouses. EU, of course, but originally the Germany and France has the initiative to create this new regulation or make it effective. But probably in Asia, we don't have to look that far, like visit Korea to find a new regulation. Or more.
But I don't recommend it. As you, I think I should first to say this one as a background. I mean, Korea, as you know, has experienced a really rapid economic growth, which means that the government-led economic strategy was so successful. You know, government controlled everything, and but it worked really well. So we made a really rapid economic growth. But the downside of that rapid economic growth is one of the downsides of that is that we have given too much power to the government. You know, government can control. So we are now um, struggling with the issue how to minimize or how to make it more reasonable. I mean, the government power more reasonable. For example, when it comes to the MRFDA, Korea's competition law, as you well know, unfair trading practices and abuse of a super bargaining position, um, this tool has been used to artificially allocate the profits of the firms. You know, it's a guided system, right? I mean, it's a vertically integrated system. Samsung Electronics, for example, here, and there are so many companies linked to the Samsung Electronics. But sometimes maybe the lead company on the upside, they can upward, they can exploit the other companies, right? And but it's not a good situation because the government has put a lot of efforts and resources to these large companies to boost the economy. But if they exploit other affiliate companies, then it's not a really good situation. So, in my perception, that for this case, government used unfair trading practices tool very effectively and actively to to adjust the profit allocation mechanism. So don't don't exploit the others or don't impose too many restrictive conditions to your trading partners like this. But in as far as I remember, it was around 2000 or early 2000 or 2020 or the 2010. But anyways, the Korea experienced a significant economic system change. I mean, after the IMF crisis, and then we are now heading for the free market system. Of course, we already have a free market system, but in a more political and in a more economic sense. I think we are now heading for the economic system. So we are now finding ways to rationalize and to make the government's actions better, in terms of efficiency and in terms of optimality and many yeah of outcomes of the
I see,
regulations.
I see.
So
Wow, wow, yes. Oh, wow. It's interesting. It gave me a broader perspective. Thank you so much. Um, may, um, may, I'm more intrigued by the Korean for regulation and the competition law as well. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, then, I want to go back to this. It's fantastic to hear
okay,
this,
okay,
well, I guess we have to stick to this the DMLI stuff then.
okay.
Then so you already mentioned us so UTP or unfair trade practice
Yeah.
regulation, including the ASBP, abuse of supervisory position
Yeah.
regulation,
Mhm.
uh, works
Mhm.
like is like help or facilitate the KFTC to deal with the novel practices. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Then,
yeah, yeah, I think
yeah,
so. That's my
basically, generally
perception.
speaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. I see. Okay. Um. Maybe relevant question then, but just to confirm, could you share your view on DMA? Uh,
Yeah, very
do you
briefly.
think it's yeah, very briefly on the or how it is DMA is received in a
Mhm.
amongst the Korean competition law
Mhm.
community?
Mhm. Uh, a very good question, and thank you. But as you know, I'm not a European, so my answer may be very limited. But I think I need to clarify your question into two sub questions. The first one is whether the DMA as itself uh, is seen a really good or bad law in Korea. And second question, maybe whether um, um, the DMA is needed in the Korea's specific situation or context. Well, when it comes to the second question, I think many, perhaps the majority of Korean competition scholars agree with the view that Korea may not fit in the DMA types of rule because as we just discussed, the market is still alive and there may be some distortions and then there may be some practices that deserve really heavy sanctions. But we have, as we discussed, we have a competition law, which works really well. And then also, in addition to abuse of dominance, we can sanction abuse without dominance. using the tool of unfair trading practices. So in Korea, well, if you implement the DMA in Korea, then it may not work. That's the majority's view, I think. But when it comes to DMA itself in Europe, well, it depends, of course. I mean, some scholars really like the DMA, and I once also liked the NCT, the new competition tool, the previous version of the DMA. I really liked it, but it depends. But I don't want to discuss the individuals' different opinions. But what I want to say is that perhaps, if I understand correctly, the majority's view is that the DMA, its effect is not clear yet. So if we still have enough time, then the wait and see approach may be better. So no one knows. It may be good, it may be bad, but wait and see. I mean, maybe the European Commission can make it clear within 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. Great, great. Thank you very much for your clarification and also sharing your view
Thank you.
in Korean setting as well. Yeah. Could you remind me so ASPP regulation, like abuse of superposition and Korea may result in a criminal sanction.
Yeah, technically, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
theoretically, yeah. And
Okay.
and practically to a certain extent, yes. Surprisingly.
Okay. So right. Okay. Okay. So you said majority, the Korean majority is majority is view that the Korea does not need the DMA, and could you give me the number, actually, how major are you, like 51% or
Yeah.
just roughly? I don't know. You can't count this, but
I don't know,
precise.
but maybe just when it comes to the DMA itself, maybe 50-50. I don't know.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe.
but
But
Korean,
under Korean setting, yeah, as you
yes.
just correctly mentioned, well,
Just the impression.
yeah, it would be really difficult to find a really serious scholar who really seriously argue that we need a DMA in Korea, which means that maybe 70 or 80% of scholars.
So no,
It's my
largely,
perception. Yeah.
huge serious scholar thinks consider that the DMA style regulation is necessary in Korea. So it's rare, so
I
hard,
think it's
difficult to
rare,
find. Oh,
very
right.
rare. But that's some scholars, and then I have seen some scholars arguing in favor of the DMA adoption, DMA style regulation adoption, but many of them are quite new in this field.
Oh, right.
They are
Okay.
coming from other fields, and they don't really understand what the institutional setting now is. I mean, they perhaps don't understand the unfair trading practices and abuse of supervisory position and abuse of dominance, and then that's my perception. But if you look at the major scholars, the former president of the competition law associations, or perhaps all of them, almost all of them, maybe save 1 or 2 exceptions, I don't know, but maybe 99%, and they are against the platform regulation.
All right. Wow, that's already like something. Thank you so much. Thank you. So KFTC's decision to set aside, abandon this initiative is a good decision overall. Leaving that's the amendment parts, but
Yeah. I think, the abandonment, yes, it's good, I think. That's my perception.
that's another story. But abandoning that's the ex ante designation type regulation, platform regulation, abandoning that initiative is a good decision.
Yeah, given the
Already.
current market situation, yes,
Okay.
I think so.
I see. Thank you. So, right. Okay. So they actually made a good decision. Right. And
No,
the
but
Japanese people are they shouldn't be shocked by that.
No, no.
So Korean situation is different. Like, relax.
No, well, no one knows. I mean, the future. I mean, I just can provide perhaps, in my view, the best answer given the current conditions. So perhaps in the future, we may need to change our views. But yeah, currently, I think, yeah.
Okay, okay. Could you, this is the last question about this DMA, like the ex
Mhm.
ante regulation or platform regulation. So the KFTC has given up. Then what about the other administrative branches or the politicians? Is it real possibility that we may see the bill again or the
Mm,
initiative again to have this kind of regulation
but
in
that's
Korea
really
soon?
important point. Thank you for asking that question. Interestingly, right on the day of the announcement, the opposition party that is now taking the majority in the National Assembly, um, they announced that they will make a coalition with other consumer groups or civil society, I mean, the NGOs, to push for the regulation. So, which means that the opposition party is really not happy with the current government's decision to abandon its original plan to pursue a regulation. And so no one knows the future. So even if the government has abandoned its plan to introduce new regulation, but there are still some possibilities for the congressman to introduce a new bill using the majority's power. Uh, yeah, no one knows the future. However, yeah, what I want to say is that, but usually government's bill is regarded as a really strong and an important source. So yeah, it may give a very important signal all the relevant parties, I think.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. It's quite dynamics.
Yeah.
Just like the Korean politics.
Yeah, now I also need to mention this one. I mean, in Korea, the parliament. Oh, yeah,
Oh, oh,
why
oh.
did you just? Okay. Anyways, I'm happy with your sum up. And okay. Anyways, yeah. In Korea, I mean, I heard that in Japan, it's a cabinet system. So government officials usually draft the bill, and then they have a really strong power and influence in making law. But in Korea, um, the parliament and I mean the National Assembly is also really powerful. But sometimes, if they really want to proceed, then they can do that, regardless of the president of or the government. Of course, the president is a different story because he can reject the bill. But anyways, yeah, the majority, yeah, the parliament's power is really strong. So there's everywhere there is a conflict.
Oh, wow, I see. Thank you. Thank you very much for explaining the backgrounds and yeah, or giving us the overall picture. So next, finally, it's already around 2, 3, or 1. I had you for more than an hour already. But is it
Um,
okay to move on to the amendments part?
yeah, very good.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
okay.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
I'm just worried. I mean, if the readers or audience would get bored, but I hope not. So I'll try my best. Yeah,
Well, they are. You are like
yeah,
locked in this situation. You cannot avoid the. You can shut up this. You can leave this video session, but at any moment. But
Okay.
video viewers are different. They can use
Okay,
this
good.
the
Okay, of
twice like
course.
speed up and jump and skip.
Okay,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Very good.
so you
That
are the
sounds
poor.
beautiful. Okay, okay,
You are in a more difficult situation now with
okay.
me. Right.
No worries.
Okay. So I think you agree with the presumption.
Yeah,
The next, second part is about amendments.
yeah.
Yeah. So you agree with the presumptions that you first described.
It's very tricky and a very important question, but so far, I mean, what I can say is it remains to be seen. I don't know, but because it's a really practical issue, and whether to introduce the presumptions or not, it's the question of how to strike a balance between the enforcement efficiency and accuracy. So, you know, we all know the theories of first negative and the first positives, right? So it's a kind of balancing thing. So um, in order to uh, present a right answer for that question, I think you need to know the practice very well. But to be honest, I'm a researcher, so I don't know how difficult it is for the agency to prove the effects or the dominance or the relevant market. Definition of the relevant market is the relevant market is really well defined. I don't know how difficult it is for the commission, for the KEFTC, but at a first glance, I think there would be no problem. I think if the KFTC finds that some tools to improve the efficiency, then yeah, it can be acceptable, I think. And also, indeed, and then as I mentioned earlier, to some key scholars in Korea, I mean, former the president of the Korea's Competition Law Associations, there were three scholars interviewed by media, and one of them argued that, well, it is good, and then it is very practical approach and the presumption. And one of them, he was really against the presumptions as well. I mean, well, why do we need presumptions? And the second, he was in the middle of these two different positions, and so yeah, you can see that how divided the view is for now. Yeah, so it's a
True,
very
I
interesting
see.
situation.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's well, okay. Academically, it's interesting. Thank you very much for your nuanced answers. Yeah. Okay, then what about this? You said the four practices
Yeah, yeah,
particularly mentioned.
yeah.
Could you remind me? So it's like
Uh,
MFN.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's yeah. To be more correct, I just checked the press release again, and it's yeah, self-preferencing is the first, and the second is time. The following is restrictions on multi-homing, and the last one is MFNs, yeah, imposing MFNs
oh, okay. Okay, I
unilaterally.
see. Right. Okay. Okay. And they are included from the point of the pure fairness or exploitation or exclusion.
Very interesting. I mean, as you know, those four practices actually were um, included in addressed in the platform guidelines, as we discussed earlier. And then, sorry, what was sorry? Oh, your question was about, I mean,
I the background of the
background of the
of this
selection of those.
question is that uh, I understand that the MFN
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
dealt in Korea
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
like constituted ASVP, abusive supervising position is it's to me it's a bit odd. MFN is to me it is more about competition rather than exploitation or abusive supervising position. So I when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
heard this like for lists
Mhm,
um self preference well restricting multi-homing
mhm,
sounds like more about exclusion or achieving competition, like
mhm,
competition
mhm.
policy,
Yeah, yeah,
based
yeah,
on
yeah.
competition
Okay.
policy. But what about the other, like MFN and well, it's more like the pure
Uh, yeah.
fairness stuff, or more
Uh,
more to do with the
yeah.
preventing
Yeah.
exclusion or keeping the competition
Yeah.
um, like
Yeah.
active.
Yeah. I get your point. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I was very shortly distracted by other things, but um, yeah. Um, conclusion first, and is to put it simply, exclusion, only competition, and
Right, right.
more explanation may be needed. I think actually these 4 practices were included in the platform guidelines, but in the first version of that guidelines, there were many more unfair trading practices as well. But the KFTC dropped the unfair trading practices part after receiving some feedbacks from the field. So it decided to focus only on abuse of donors practices, which means that they decided only to exclusionary nature of those practices. So it is now copied and pasted into the proposal. So yeah, in this context, we can say that those 4 practices are only about exclusion or anti-competitiveness.
I see. I see. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
so it's like the revival of this platform guidelines.
Mm,
Now you are
yeah,
seeing it. Oh, okay. What's into?
yeah, revival. Yeah. So further strengthened. Yeah, I think.
Okay, okay. See, and how probability for the KFTC next time like successfully gets through this legislation amendments?
Um, I
Will we how likely are we gonna see this amendments indeed happening, taking place?
well, unfortunately, um, basically, I don't know, but unfortunately, I read an article, the Global Competition Review article, and in that article, um, one scholar in Korea who is really famous and a renowned scholar, and he was interviewed and he commented about that question, and then he said it's really unlikely because the opposition party, as we just discussed, right on that day of the press release, the opposition party announced against the proposal, so it's very unlikely to pass. But there is also another view, and it may be likely to be passed, but no one knows. But anyways, what I want to say is that the opposition, the majority party, it doesn't like this bill, the amendment bill. So it's very dynamic. So
Yeah, yeah, extremely. I said, what makes this difference between Korea and Japan? Seriously, I can't think of the JFTC is making announcement and then only
yeah,
within 2 weeks someone is saying that oh it's unlikely. At the the JFTC makes the announcement coming
uh,
from a chairperson.
yeah,
This is what
yeah,
they think that they
yeah,
there should be. It seems that we kind of know that
yeah,
well.
yeah. I think.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, very. I don't know why. What makes such a very big differences between the two countries? But
yeah,
yeah.
true, true. Probably they, well, I say that's the another,
Okay.
another day. Okay, then, you already, shared your view on amendments, but like your overall impression, unfortunately, it may be unlikely that these amendments get through and take place, in fact, but uh, what's your view on this?
Well, I don't know. It's really dynamic. I mean, and I also was resonated. Um, I mean, I also agree that with that observation. I mean, it may be unlikely, but it was yesterday or one day before yesterday, and the chief of the KFTC wrote a paper, and not a paper, just a column. I mean, a really short piece, and on newspaper, and then defending his position about the bill, and then I reread the press release again, then I realized that within the government and also with um, anyways, yeah, within the government, um, they already reached a conclusion or an agreement that this bill is really necessary and enough. And also, of course, the opposition party is not happy with this one, but the ruling party is really happy with this bill. And then they realize that it's kind of a compromise. It's a good compromise, a practical compromise So they are all are ready to pursue this bill, ready to push this bill. So it depends on how the KFTC will be successful in persuading the opposition party and the other um, uh, stakeholders. It's never know. I don't know, but it's one day it seems unlikely, but one day it seems likely. So okay.
That's the democracy, I guess.
It's,
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And then, so it may be happen and may not happen, but then your views on this on the amendments overall?
yeah, but one thing very clear is that it's very highly unlikely to go back to the regulatory approach. I mean,
Hmm.
the government has already announced it,
Hmm.
and turning back its previous position. So, I mean, it was pushed for regulation 2 times or 3 times, and then this time it announced again that it abandoned. So even in Korea, it is very unlikely for the commission for the government to okay, I was wrong. Okay, go to the regulation again. Not this way. It is really highly unlikely even in Korea. So I think that's one really very clear that I
Hmm.
can say.
Hmm.
And then I don't know, but maybe with 51% 1% uh, sure. I mean, 1% certainty. I think I can. Um, well, it possibly can be passed. I think it's just a presumptions and amendment of MRFDA. So for the KFTC, it may be easy to relatively easy for them to persuade the opposition party that okay, for now, please agree um, with this bill. And then perhaps you are now arguing that stronger bill is needed, but perhaps in the future, yeah, we can introduce it. But for now, we need this one, and perhaps this may be a really good strategy for them. But I'm not sure. Yes, so
Oh,
with a 51% certainty, I
okay. Okay. Um, yeah. Um, hmm. I see.
sorry.
No, 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 no.
So
It's
ambiguous.
for interesting and exciting to hear and those. Wow. This amendments will be only about platforms, so they are dealt with in a different way.
For now, it
Mm,
will be only about platforms. Yes,
mm,
in the press release, they mentioned several uh, platform services, 6 categories. The first one is online intermediaries,
all
and
right.
second one is search engines, and third one is digital content services,
Mm,
video
mm,
sharing platforms like TikTok or
mm,
YouTube, and then social networks and
mm,
like a Facebook,
mm,
and then operating systems
mm,
and the online advertising. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Do you agree that they deserve this special treatments?
Mm, well, academically, I don't know.
Yeah. Mm,
Well, I don't know whether
mm,
the platform services can be really divided and then they're separated into 6 categories, but
mm,
it is really contextual, but it is really context-based. But
mm,
yeah, if I think if it's really needed, I think that, yeah, for the enforcer, I think it
mm,
may be understandable.
mm.
But
Right.
yeah, but it has to be really cautious
Mm,
because if this time it treats a platform service in a really special way,
mm,
then what about the next time? I mean, with the arrival of new technologies like AI or whatever, I mean, GAI something, then would the KFTC introduce another special treatment over
yeah.
those services? I mean, this is a really main question, and I think it's a really good question, and then that's the question the
Yeah.
KFTC should
This
consider.
gets stronger and stronger. Like
Uh,
welcome to new welcome for this new day. technologies.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah,
comes like
yeah,
novel technology,
yeah,
they
yeah,
have
yeah,
the more like
yeah, yeah.
stronger like
Yeah, maybe in the end we will have a DMA, even
yeah,
stronger
yes,
DMA.
yeah, yes. Like
Okay,
congratulations and
amend the
for that.
law. Okay. Oh,
And
now we
now
have.
you have yeah, exactly. Instead of DMA, you have the like
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this is one of the concerns. Yes, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that so like Europeans, people, scholars, you like clear distinction between the competition law and the regulation to you
I
and
think
to Korean scholars.
it's perhaps my perception. I mean, the
All
Korean
right.
scholars usually use the term regulation when they say about the competition law, but I personally doesn't like this kind of language. So language
Oh.
use, but it's my personal thing. So yeah, so
Oh, okay,
sorry.
okay.
It's
No, 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 no. It's important, and that's a good reminder for me. Like,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So yeah, no, 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 no. Okay. The last thing is about the amendments. What about the interim measure?
Mhm,
You
mhm.
mentioned that it's also included in the plan.
Yeah, I think it's very good. Yeah,
So this
definitely.
was clear, good
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
you. Yeah. So you
I
think
have
it's
been
good.
arguing that,
Yeah.
well, if the speed is a really big problem, then why don't we try the interim measure first? Then if it fails, then we can adopt more stricter tool. But for now, we don't have interim measure within the frame of MRFTA, Korean competition law. Of course, in other law, there is a similar system, but yeah, that's what I said. Interim measure and perhaps plus consent decree or commitment system. Yeah, maybe yeah, more effective.
Okay. Okay, good commitment procedure. We have to discuss that too. Japan and Korea have to discuss that. I mean, Korean scholars and Japanese part from
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Japanese point of view and Korean point of view. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. So we have basically covered the announcements or press release from the KUTC, and then like I would like to hear like your views on its you this the process or the history or
Mm,
the some something that you described as a roller coaster
mm,
like legislative or policy planning or making
mm,
process
mhm.
overall. Yeah. So may
Yeah.
before
Mhm.
concluding us, can we
Oh, yeah,
discuss
yeah, yeah,
a
very
little
good.
bit?
Yeah. I would be really happy to discuss more about the legislative
Yeah,
the
thank you. Thank
policy
you, because
making process.
yeah, yes. So because the blog is the concluding part is more about that, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
not only
actually.
about, yeah,
Yeah.
that has been my impression. So
Mm.
Korea was actually the first country to legislate digital platform specific law. The App Store law
Mhm, mhm,
was there. It's quite swift,
mhm,
efficient
mhm, mhm,
move
mhm,
it looked then to me.
mhm, mhm.
Then what happened to that act? Could you explain how effective that law has been?
Yeah, yeah. Very briefly, I mean, thank you for asking that really also really interesting question and the important question. And but here in this video, I would explain it really briefly because I have already written many details in my blog post. And the history traced back to 2020, and if I remember correctly, and then as we have already discussed, the KFTC suddenly presented its bill, right, within just 3 months. 3 months, I mean, after the announcement of its plan, and then it made so many people upset and surprised, including the KCC, the Korea's communication regulator, and uh, I don't know the details of its motivation, but the KCC was really upset. So it presented its own bill. Um, but the details of the content of the bill is was very similar to that of the KFTC's bill. The only big difference is that yeah, KCC will have the authority. I mean, we can regulate, not the KFTC. And the KFTC was really surprised, because I
I can
presented
imagine.
I
Yes.
presented the bill And it was a government bill, and the KCC suddenly it used a congressman that please we please submit this bill. I mean it's your bill. I mean we drafted it, and the two the same two bills were presented, and the president couldn't handle the authority conflicts because those two agencies were so um, rigid, and then two were really upset. I mean, the KFTC was why we presented the first, and then the KCC that we you never ever consorted, and you never ever you talked at this issue with me, and then maybe the KCC back then thought that this issue should be addressed by him or her, and then so it was really interesting. And so that was the background of why the first initiative failed. One of the reasons and the main reasons, because tug of war delayed the whole process. But in the course of the tug of war, the very interesting thing is that I mean with the I mean with the arrival of the new president, the current president, the KFD bill collapsed, and at the same time, the KCC bill collapsed, of course, because the National Assembly was just closed without making any decisions. But the thing is that KCC, in the course of this discussion, they I don't know their skills, but they persuaded some lawmakers that we need a app store regulation, and it's a different bill. So, and there was no serious discussions about the app store bill because maybe the KCC just persuaded the lawmakers that saying that it's only about targeting Google and Apple. It doesn't touch on any local companies, and it's very serious. 30%, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, we can regulate this one, we can prohibit this one. So please pass this bill and insert the provision that yeah, we will take the authority, the regulatory authority. And then yeah, this bill was inserted into the Telecommunication Act, which means that the Telecommunication Act excludes the intervention of the KFTC.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the double jeopardy issues. So, which means that the KCC inserted this provision into this Telecommunication Act, and by doing so, it was successfully excluded the KFTC's intervention. So KFTC really okay. Then yeah, I mean, from the day on, I mean, KFTC was not able to touch Apple and Google, especially on this matter. So it was really stupid.
It's it's not based on the consensus between these agencies.
This one was not
Was
based
not.
on consensus. Yes,
Oh, well, it's
as far as I
see.
know, but maybe the different maybe stories may have happened, but I don't know.
Oh wow. So it's I guess it's a situation is different from the UK. The UK
Mhm,
having this provision in this act does not mean that
mhm.
this telecom regulator and energy regulator is excluded.
Yeah. As far as I know, it
Yeah,
is
but
called concurrence of
yeah,
powers. Yes,
exactly,
yeah,
concurrent.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. Um, you see, the competition is good in this.
Yeah,
Well, the
it's
serious you have this very quick
yeah.
legislation.
As,
Legislation.
as we talked, I was born in Korea and I raised in Korea for 30 years, but I still don't understand why so many Koreans are so competitive.
Oh, well, yes.
They really love competition. Whatever you do, even the government official, I really would do. I do want to regulate Google and Apple.
They want. They want to
Um,
regulate them.
yeah, they really want. I mean, they want to take the control, and then they want to sanction and issue many decisions. I, I don't know. Maybe this may be one of the biggest sources of their happiness. And
Wow.
I don't know.
Uh,
But
wow. So it
one
is.
more, yeah, one more
So
interesting thing is that the court, the judges,
yeah.
also are also taking the same stance to my perspective, and they are also rendering many decisions. Okay, okay. Sometimes overturn the decisions. So, like,
Overturning decision?
yeah, yeah, go away, government. I can decide everything, and the government just really said, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" And let's go to the congressman, and then okay, please amend the law. And then I really don't like that interpretation. And then, I bet it's a little bit, yes, a little bit, manipulated, and then a little bit
Uh, right,
change it.
right.
But anyways, yes, it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah, it is. It is indeed. No wonder so many things. Well, that you may see the roller coaster situation, but it seems that the natural consequence. Well, then in relation to the happiness, so KCC has been happy like enforcing the law. Indeed.
Yeah, but the thing is that you made a really right question. But the problem is that the KCC has never, if I, to the best of my knowledge, it has never ever addressed um, competition-related issues, especially against global companies. There has been only one case, as far as I know, which was against Facebook, but the KCC sanctioned the Facebook. The case was related to net neutrality and net usage fee. But anyways, the detail maybe not very important. But anyways, the KCC sanctioned the Facebook, but it lost at every stage of the court process. First instance it lost, and the second, so KCC lost its confidence, maybe. I don't know. So it has not issued the final sanctions against Google and Apple yet.
Oh, oh, poor them. Poor them. What? So
And
they were
one
they
more
were
reason
happy
is
when
that,
they
yeah, yeah,
made this legislation, but since then they are
yeah,
not
and
happy.
they
Oh,
realize. And one of the reason is that the chief of the KFCC has always been embroiled in political scandals. So in the absence of the leadership, it may have not been very easy for them to address really big cases. So
oh, I
Facebook,
see.
yeah, yeah. So Google, they maybe are now waiting.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay,
So
I see.
yeah.
I see. I see. Okay, thank you very much for your explanation. Then, okay. I'm
Sorry.
getting enlightened about the Korean situation. Really, yeah, thanks to you. And then does that actually explain that the the since this Telecom Act amendments insertion, this like App Store Act,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
App Store law, then uh we don't I don't remember the legislative initiative from Korea. So big like silence between these. And then the last announcement that I've heard is that the KFTC is dropping this initiative.
Uh,
I wonder what happened in between.
uh,
Probably the lesson is learned.
yeah. Uh,
So from the abstract.
Locally, there have been really serious discussions, but perhaps
Yeah, you
these were,
talk explain the like
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Bilson.
yeah, I think, yeah, yeah. These discussions may have not known or translated into English or other languages, because there were so many discussions arguments, so, and including many meaningless discussions as well. So we are only talking about the government bill, right? I mean, but
Yes.
one day I stopped following up all the legislative proposals made by
Oh,
lawmakers, because many of them looked really ridiculous, or many of them were really not serious. I mean, not
oh,
considerate and so thoughtful. So
Okay.
yeah, so there were so many issues, and perhaps many people thought that it is not worthy
All
to
right.
translate and introduce the current situation to the others, and it was my stance as well. I mean,
All
perhaps
right.
even before this announcement, I
Hmm.
didn't think that it is really good timing. It is a really good timing to write something about Korea's situation.
All right. Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe.
Okay. Okay. So it was actually there were there have been legislative efforts that
Mhm,
not reported,
mhm,
made by the politicians only,
mhm.
not serious enough, not
The
worthy,
government also
worthy well.
presented bill.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ah, okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay,
but
okay.
too many bills and too many arguments,
Oh,
so they were not very organized. But now I think we are now seeing the really important um, event, I think, when it comes to the
right.
platform regulation. So yeah, I thought that this may be the right timing. So that's the one of the reasons why I wrote a blog post, a short piece.
Okay, okay, okay. I see, I see, I see. So, what is the lesson that the Korean legislator or KFTC or policymakers should learn out of this? Um,
Mm, yeah, it's well, yeah, let's talk about the blog post. And
mm,
actually, I addressed this issue in a little bit different perspective, and not from the perspective of competition law, but from the perspective of legislation or public
yeah, yeah,
administration and
yes.
policy making process.
Hmm.
And in this from this perspective, I thought that there can be two lessons from can be drawn from the Korea's experience. The first one is that you have to consider the market situation very carefully first, I mean, in advance, before you introduce a new bill or introduce a new regulation. Otherwise, it will face a really serious backlash from the public,
Mm,
then because it cannot persuade the people that we need more regulation other than competition law that can fix and restore the competition. Um, and the second is that uh, maybe this point is maybe more important than the first one is, but even if any regulations are needed, the government cannot take a should not take a really unilateral and top-down approach. You
oh,
know, um, as we discussed, and in 2020, when it comes to the first initiative, it was all of a sudden. It was just, the KFTC just announced its plan, and only 3 months later, it presented its bill, and without any preparatory work like well, green paper or white
mm,
paper.
oh,
And after that, of course, it took it operated some it opened consultation process, but yeah, as we discussed, it should have happened before the release of the bill.
mhm,
And for example, JFTC, I think we should learn from JFTC and the ACC in Australia and European Commission as well, and the United Kingdom as well. Um, those jurisdictions and those agencies always publish policy papers first to gather some opinions from the field, right? And then to build the societal consensus. I
mm,
think it's really helpful. But
mm,
when it comes to platform regulation, the KFTC, for some reasons, I think I understand that the KFC didn't want to do that, but because of the institutional settings, I mean,
mm,
as we discussed, the Korea adopts the presidential
mm,
system,
mm,
so KFTC couldn't make any policy paper,
mm,
and they just they presented the bill referring to European Union's DMA or P2B regulation.
mm,
It was a mistake, I think. And
oh,
KCC, the issue may have not happened if the KFTC had taken more seriously steps, like publishing policy papers first. I think in that sense, recently KFTC announced that it will publish the policy paper regarding AI issues. And
Yeah,
I
yes,
think
yeah.
it's a really right approach. I mean,
Ah,
before taking serious action against the AI, then it now announced that we will first study and then clarify potential competition concerns first, and then the alternative tools, or whether the current tools can be used to cope with AI competition concerns, if any. So I think it's a really good direction. And so I think we cannot blame the KFTC um, because they may have tried their best to handle this issue under the given constraints. And then so I think, yeah, maybe the president who should be blamed. I don't know, but I hope the president don't
yeah.
see this video. But
Well, is he still active? Active?
yeah. So active, but the previous president was
Previous.
also similar. I mean, previous one and the current one, and yeah, but not about individual. I mean, the presidential office.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay. We're
yeah,
not talking about this individual
yeah,
specific
yeah,
person. We are talking about the institutional setting.
yeah. Institutional
Right.
setting and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
presidential
Institutional
office. Yeah.
design. Yeah, yes. Okay.
Thank you for
No,
for safer clarification. Okay.
yeah, yes. To be safe.
Mm.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you. So these are the lessons.
I think, yeah,
Yes.
two lessons
Yeah.
that may be
Yes.
workable for other
Yeah.
jurisdictions. Yeah.
Oh, so it sounds very reasonable and convincing. Thank you so much. And wonderful.
Yeah. Maybe one last comment, if I may?
Yeah, of
I
course,
think,
please.
my argument may sound like DMA is a really bad option, or Japan took a really had a mistake. No, that's not what I wanted to say. I mean, what I wanted to say is that, as we just discussed, from the perspective of strategy, in the policy making process and the legislative process, that the KFTC made some mistakes, and then so and then in Korea's specific context, when it comes to the economy or the market, and also the institutional setting. And so in this situation, the current KFTC's announcement to abandon its plan to introduce the DMA like a style regulation is not. I think the current announcement should be praised. That's what I want to say. I mean, so it's really region specific, or the angle a little bit different. But yeah, so I'm just concerned that if my story, if my presentation or today's talk is read like, the DMA is a really bad regulation. That's not what I want to say. And of course, it may be bad, but yeah, it's not the focus of my research. So
Well, true, but actually, what you kindly did through this long session, long discussion, and long
sorry for missing
thank you
the
so much for
quote.
your time. You clarified it's not the case. The first impression, like Korea departed or
Yeah.
deviated from this global trend to, or decided to take different approach from the um, rest of world or the Japanese, but it's not the case necessarily. That we have to look at the market situation and how the competition law is enforced, in fact, and the institutional setting and the policy making process. They all so I think overall, your explanation and analysis clarified that, like, made it clear that that understanding is not the correct
Thank you.
one. Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Finally, you are free.
No, it's okay. 以上ですか？はい。
はい、ありがとうございます。お疲れ様でした。
ありがとうございます。Thank you
はい、あ
for
りがとうござい
inviting
ま
me.
す。
Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much. ありがとうございました。本当
Okay,
に
ありが
よくわ
とうございます。
かりました。
Okay,
じゃあ、これで終わりにしたいと思います。
Okay, おやすみなさい。
はい、おやすみな
お疲
さい。
れ様でした。
はい、お疲れ
ありがとうございます。
様でした。はい、さよな
Okay,
ら。バイ
you.
バイな、
Bye
バ
bye.
イ。